Hello everyone, this is 05 and welcome to the Kirby Masato toy review. And today we'll be looking at the 2011 release by Mattel of the DC vs Classics action figure review. And today's video is a part 2 final video for the DC vs Classics Fates Intertwined 2-pack. And this time we'll be focusing our review on Gentleman Ghost. Now, I've been longing to get this figure for quite some time. Ever since the Gentleman Ghost figure was, well, appearing in the Giganta wave back in a few years ago, I neglected to get Gentleman Ghost at that time. And because at that time I wasn't into DC vs Classics. Then when I was starting to get into DC vs Classics, I regretted not getting this figure painfully. So I'm really glad that this 2-pack actually, well, gave me a chance to get Gentleman Ghost, considering that this figure is being sold in eBay for $79 to $90 mint in card for the DC vs Classic that came along with the Giganta part. Rather expensive. Now, inside the packaging we have the Gentleman Ghost, and I really hate it where they place the figure in a dynamic pose, especially when they try to bend his leg that way. So I hope the moment I pull out this figure out from the packaging, I hope there's nothing wrong with the, well, the parts there. I really hate how Mattel do their packaging for the DC vs Classic. They can have just simply placed the figures in a straight formation pose. They don't need to put such a dynamic pose and ruin the figure's, well, articulation. Anyways, let's take a look at the packaging at the side. On the side here, you got nicer images, especially on Aquaman and the Flash. There's also Hawkgirl, very nice. And here we have a smaller image of the Gentleman Ghost. His biography is at the bottom, stated, after being hanged for his crimes, 19th century highwayman, quote and unquote, Gentleman Jim Craddock's spirit rose again as the Gentleman Ghost, returning to his former good life of crime. The Gentleman Ghost soon crossed paths with the Justice Society of America. His powers and phantom nature make him nearly impossible to apprehend, but the superheroes of the 21st century always manage to defeat this dapper spectral villain. Now, at the bottom is the statistics. First appearance, Flash Comics issue number 88. October 1947, aka Gentleman Jim the Ghost. Real name James Craddock. Occupation highwayman / robber / criminal. Base of operations London, St. Roch, Louisiana, Midway City. Special abilities: insubstantial. Body is invisible to the human eye. Induces extreme cold in people who touch him, and can resurrect other ghosts from his enemy's past. Sharpshooter with flintlock pistols. Completely immoral. How is that as a special ability, being completely immoral? I don't understand that. Anyways, without further ado, let's open up this packaging so we can molest the figure. Be right back. And we're back after removing the figure, and there is stuff out from the packaging. Now, Gentleman Ghost here only has 2 accessories, a cane and a flintlock pistol. So we'll take a close look on the flintlock pistol. Now, the pistol is actually, well, in a white plastic material, so there is no paint job at all. But you can see the small little details onto the flintlock pistol, which is actually quite nicely done. I really like the smaller details there. You got a smaller trigger and also a trigger guard as well. You got the cocking action at the top section here. The barrel is also nicely done. Very nicely done with the details. And then we have his walking cane, which is, well, nothing that special actually. There's a ball on the top, and it's made of a, well, white plastic material, no paint job at all, just like the flintlock pistol. Nothing much to talk about. Now, the problem with these 2 accessories is that Gentleman Ghost on his right hand can wield the flintlock pistol, but it's a bit loose. The left hand wields the cane itself, which barely even holds the cane at all, and it's infuriating at all because every time you try to place the cane onto the hand itself, it tends to fall off. So I suggest use a hot water trick and try to enclose the gap a little bit more so it can hold the cane better. Now, let's take a look at the figure's paint job. Yes, I know, Gentleman Ghost is all mostly in white anyway. What paint job? Actually, there is paint job. Despite that the hole at the neck there is actually, of course, painted in black. The rest of the body parts is painted in white, as you can see that. Now, not to say the paint job is actually that clean. There are some chips of paint job here at the elbow and at the shoulder here. Not really well done. Furthermore, for a white paint job, they didn't actually apply it very well. Some portion of the lower section of the elbow here is a bit gray. And some portion of the body is not, of course, painted. The crotch area and the thigh area is not painted. The arms is painted. The torso is not painted. As you can see, the torso is made of a white plastic material. The knees, however, is painted. And the lower section here is used a different type of a plastic material. It's used a, I wouldn't say clear translucent plastic. I would say a blue translucent plastic material. Not too sure why they chose blue and not follow the same plastic material as the back portion of the cape. As you can see, this portion is painted and it's supposed to slowly fade off and turn invisible, as you can see here. But you get to see a lot of those spray spots covering this entire section here, which is not really clean at all. The entire cape at the back portion of the cape is made of a clear translucent plastic, as you can see here, and it's painted in white. Again, the same problem. There's a lot of spray spots going throughout this area, which is not very well cleaned. So that's this portion there. The entire hat is not painted at all, pure plastic color. This portion is painted. This entire string here is also, not painted. And that's about it with the paint job. It's mostly white anyway, so there's nothing much to talk about. Let's take a look at the figure's mold. Now, surprisingly enough, the entire mold, not counting the neck piece here, and the cape and the head, the entire body mold is actually a reused mold from Joker. Yes, Joker. So there's nothing surprising about it. They wore similar style suits. So yes, it's a sort of like a tuxedo suit here, but really nicely done. They actually modified of course, the collar here to add in this piece, which is really nice. And if you pull this apart, you get to see the details inside of the clothing there. There's a lot of nice buttons. Got a small little flower there. Very nice. The vest is a separate piece, of course, made of a softer plastic material. However, this piece here, you cannot actually remove the vest itself because this portion is actually glued onto the inside of the body. The back portion of the tux itself, you got this two-tail, and then you have the cape itself. What's really ingenious about Good Gentleman Ghost is the head. There is no head sculpt, there is no head at all. Well, if you want to count this as a head, because, just like in the comics, he doesn't show his face because it's hideously, rotting away. So he doesn't show his face, he just covers it. Technically covered, it does it invisible. So as you can see, you have a headless head here, which is really ingenious. You got a nice little top hat on the top, and a monocle that's attached to the bottom section of the top hat there. You got a string that goes all the way to the vest. Very nice. And of course you got the cape here and the collar. Very nice. I really like the amount of details of the suit itself, especially when they used clear translucent plastics for the cape and a blue one for the legs there. What I really didn't like is, why do they have to use this color joint? I mean, can't they just use a clear translucent joint rather than this? I just don't understand why they have to do that. It doesn't look very nice though. But the overall mold is very, very interesting. I really like the empty head there. Now let's take a look at the figure's articulation, and this is the part where I really hate the most. This is where Gentleman Ghost fails extremely bad. First off, as expected, he doesn't have a head, he doesn't have a head articulation. However, the cape, thanks to the packaging, sort of bent backwards, so your gentleman goes here, he's not looking straight, he just pivots back a little bit thanks to the cape there. And the shoulder joints can actually turn 260 degrees, but it's hindered by this piece here, so you can actually turn it like so and spread the arms this far. Now the joints is not really that well built, especially on the upper bicep here. As you can see, the gap is starting to show, widen up a little bit more. It's like it's gonna pop up sooner or later. Elbow joint bend this far, and wrist joint bend, well, turn 360 degrees. Torso is a bit weak, it's a bit loose, but you can move forward and, well, back a little bit because it's being hindered by the entire tux and the cape. There is no waist joint. This part is sealed tight, which I'm quite surprised why they don't actually make a waist joint for this figure. And then it comes to this horrible part, the hip joints. The hip joints, thanks to the dynamic posing, maybe it's because of that, I'm not too sure, it's extremely loose. As you can see here, he's barely able to stand properly. He can stand straight, but if you want to pose him in a dynamic pose, you're gonna see this guy just gonna fall. Maybe it's just mine, but seriously, what's this? It's so loose. You can move the leg forward a little bit. This is as far as it can go, and of course, all the way to the sides, as this was already loose anyway, and back a little bit. Now the swivel cut at the lower thigh area can actually swivel 360 degrees, and the knee joint here, thanks to the packaging, as you can see, the knee joint here, it's a bit bent, so you can actually bend the knee this far. And then we have the ankle joint that pivots down a little bit and up a little bit. Overall, the figure, I like the Gentleman Ghost figure, I really do. I like the character. But what I really didn't like is the poor quality control issue. First off, he can't wield his gun properly without, well, you can see that for yourself, right? It just popped off from his hand if the moment you touch the flintlock. Then you have the cane, which he barely is even able to hold it properly. Look at this. What's this? I have to slide it properly so it will just stay there. But the moment you touch it, it falls off. Then we have this extremely loose hip joints that he barely able to stand. And what's up with the lower legs and the back portion of the cape? Can't they use the same kind of a translucent plastic color? Why can't they use the same one as shown at the back portion of the cape? Why do they have to use blue? It's so meaningless. Overall, this figure really infuriated me a lot. A lot. I can't pose this figure properly. I can't have the figure wield his weapons properly. And I can't look away at the lower legs there. It's so weird. Blue and clear. I'm not too sure what's going on there. So if I'm going to give a rating out of this, I would say yes, the head sculpt is ingenious. Despite that this figure has been, well, reused before, because originally this one came from the Giganta wave. But the 2-pack, I'm not too sure if it's because of the quality control issue, but this really infuriated me a lot. The mold is really good. I really like the mold there. It's really detailed stuff for the entire suit there. I really like the really nice little, well, gimmick there with the clear translucent plastic, but two different colors is really off. But I really love the head design there. Well, technically a head design there. Very ingenious to have a headless character. But he can't wield his weapons. He has problems standing up by his own. Only by standing straight then he's okay. You can't do any dynamic poses for him, and has two different types of translucent plastic color. So if I'm going to give a rating out of this, I'll just give him a 3 out of 10. A 3 out of 10 for Gentleman Ghost for the 2-packs there. Because if the rest of the 2-packs have similar problems like this, then there's a problem. There's a huge problem already. but I assume that this is just a quality control issue with my figure. Not too sure why it has to happen to my Gentleman Ghost, because I really like the character. So yes, 3 out of 10 for Gentleman Ghost. I thank you all for watching. This is Lucy05 and I'm signing off.